have to call the meeting on. So I would kindly ask everybody to be seated because we are starting this meeting. And poftim?
Check.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are. Thank you for coming here. First of all, before saying hello and welcome, for non-French speakers, I would kindly invite you to get some earphones, because being a meeting dedicated to France with French participants, the working language will be French. So I will start introducing the subject. Mesdames, Messieurs, soyez les bienvenus. Notre débat d'aujourd'hui sera dédié à la stratégie de la France sur la mer Noire et sur la question d'un engagement à long terme.
So today we will speak about France's long-term commitments to the Black Sea region. We will have a recorded intervention of Mrs. DUPUY, and who is a good friend of ours. We also have Mr. Emmanuel DUPUY, the president of the Institute for European Perspective and Security in France, and Mr. Luca NICULESCU, state secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and who has also been our ambassador to France, and Mr. Quentin JALABERT, non-resident associated expert for New Strategy Center. Each and every person who will intervene in this panel has little time at their disposal. This is why I invite you to have 8-minute interventions. Now we start with the recorded messages, video message. And I want also to salute the ambassador, Laurent Solbert. But please allow me to briefly touch upon bilateral relationships between Romania and France in my introduction, and the strategic partnership, because we have celebrated 15 years since we signed it. Now, the second idea we shall discuss is the war in Ukraine, which has exacerbated the strategic endeavors in the Black Sea region, hence France's commitment to Northern European countries and Eastern European countries. The main objective of this intervention is to unfold over a number of years and to be capitalized on. Now I give the floor to Mrs. Ruffo, and then we shall continue with our interventions and interactions here.
I welcome the opportunity offered by this forum to exchange views between close partners on France's Black Sea strategy, especially as we celebrate this year the 15th anniversary of the strategic partnership between France and Romania. concluded in 2008. I sincerely regret not joining you in person today in Bucharest, and I would like to express my gratitude to the new strategy center, the Romanian Ministry of Defense and Foreign Affairs, for organizing this event. The Black Sea is an extremely crucial area. France, as you know, recognizes, as does Romania, the Black Sea and Balkan region as strategically important for Euro-Atlantic security. The illegal annexation of Crimea and then Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine have deeply destabilized the strategic environment in the Black Sea and intensified the security challenges in the region since 2014. The challenges we are facing today at the regional level, caused by Russia's unjustified and illegal aggressions against Ukraine last year, have once again confirmed our solidarity and common commitment to the principle of international law. These principles are first and foremost respect for the territorial integrity of Ukraine, but also respect for maritime law and the defense of freedom of navigation on the high seas. The Black Sea is a key waterway for maritime trade and stability in Europe. The region plays an increasingly important transit role for energy supplies to the EU and its littoral countries. As a direct consequence of Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, the global food crisis situation has also highlighted the major role of maritime transport through the Black Sea in ensuring global food security. In this context, our close and substantial cooperation in support of Ukraine and our vulnerable regional partners, such as Moldova or Bosnia, are undeniable examples of a lasting commitment to regional stability. It is important both nationally and multilaterally within the EU and NATO to continue to adapt our strategy and means of action to meet these challenges. France is fully involved in collective efforts to strengthen security in the region as a framework nation of the NATO multinational battle group in Romania. With over 1,000 troops in Romanian soil, France is contributing with several air and sea assets, such as the Mamba ground-to-air defense system in Constanța, to the strengthening of NATO's reassurance posture on the eastern flank. I would like to emphasize the responsiveness and credibility of the commitment of our forces in the long term, as well as France's willingness to further strengthen the structure currently in place in order to respond to the needs of our allies as and when required. In application of the decisions taken at the Madrid summit, the battalion is continuing an intense preparation phase with a series of exercises that have demonstrated our ability to deploy a brigade-level command staff. Alongside its allied partners, France continues to be a driving force in preserving the freedom of sea and air navigation in the Black Sea, a freedom that is currently being challenged by Russia. Given the level of tension and the deteriorating security situation in the Black Sea, the margins of our naval maneuver have become extremely limited and the risk of friction significant. In this context, the French Ministry of the Armed Forces is particularly involved in defining the role that France can play with its coastal partners such as Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, Ukraine and Georgia, while taking advantage of the relation it maintains, the joint exercises and activity it conducts in the region. These formal links are absolutely critical both for solving current problems and for preparing for future challenges. Finally, at the very moment of the renewal of the Black Sea Grain Initiative, I would like to salute the crucial role of our regional partners, such as Romania, in the promotion of food solidarity corridors, to which France continues to contribute through a bilateral commitment with more than 10 million tons exported, to ensure global food security. Thank you again, and let me wish all of you a very fruitful discussion.
On espère bien avoir des discussions. Monsieur DUPUY, vous avez la parole.
Domnule Mr. Minister, Mr. DUPUY, you have the floor. If you allow me, I will speak in French. I want to thank Mr. Scutaro for the double privilege he is offering us, and I'm glad we also have the ambassador here and Mr. Luca NICULESCU, who has been Romania's ambassador to Paris. Indeed, the previous speaker reiterated France's commitment to the efforts in the region. I am specialized in geopolitics, and I have expertise in historical studies. I will only briefly touch upon several elements that the ambassador will be able to discuss in more details. The previous speaker mentioned the importance of this central issue in Europe. In 2017, we signed the cooperation treaty. Now we need to continue our commitments, and yes, France continues to grant support to the riparian states here in the Black Sea region. And yes, we need to show interest for what is happening at the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea. And the strategic document can be downloaded from the website of the Ministry of Defense. We have study there, an overview study for the Central and the Regional Studies Center, and 16 pages has this study, showcasing the fact that France has solid footprint in the region. France has deployed 1,000 soldiers in the region to contribute to the dissuasive posture and the defense posture that NATO has in the region. We have taken these measures 4 days after Ukraine was invaded in 24th of February 2022, and that's when France decided to offer support, military support, and war vehicles and surface-to-air system was also given by France to consolidate our defensive and deterrence posture. So there is a French presence in Romania, but also in Estonia, in the links operation in the Baltic countries. So we are speaking about 4,500 French soldiers, French military men and women who are supporting us on the eastern flank. And I want to mention 5 points. We have continuity and a historical presence, and I think we need to reiterate France's constant commitment in this region of the world. I mentioned the war in Ukraine and the fact that the Romanian army was reconsolidated by the support of General Berthelot, who allowed for a reiteration of the commitment of military aid from France to Romania. And if we remember, in the First World War and in the Crimean War, we had huge losses. And in Iași, Timișoara, Constanța, Galați, Slobozia, we lost many lives. France's diplomatic presence in the region is not limited to Romania. We are present at the Black Sea, and we also received the exile government from Georgia and Azerbaijan in between 1918 and 1921. So I want to remind you that by renewing the commitment to admit the Armenian genocide, France has supported the Armenians and has always participated at the stability of the Black Sea region and the Balkans by signing the Montreux Convention that allows Turkey to close the strait in order not to allow for military access from non-riparian countries. So the Treaty in Paris 1947 about the demilitarization of the Greek islands and the Treaty in Lausanne showed the permanent French presence on the eastern flank. France was present at the Minsk group in order to find solutions in the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And in the summer of 2008, France gave a helping hand to Georgia because that's when France held the presidency of the EU and of G8. And I want to mention the Normandia Forum and the measures taken in order to apply with more efficacy Minsk I and Minsk II agreements. So France has a multidimensional presence in supporting and securing peace in the region. This is why I need to mention that strategic autonomy is important. And this includes long-term investments as well. The French investments to develop production of hydrogen at European level and to develop the European Chips Act to have the manufacturing of chips here in Europe, document similar to the American Chips Act. And also the increase of the gigawatt production to 150 gigawatt by 2050. So President Macron is always emphasizing their efforts to put into practice these commitments, and the strategic compass adopted in March 2022. And in Chisinau, a new organization will be set up in the following weeks that comes to replace an older organization, and that's a French proposal and was confirmed in Prague at the summer held there last year. Now, the central role of the Black Sea goes hand in hand with the central role played by the Baltic Sea. And we need a strategy for these two corridors and the three seas. So there's a global gateway corridor recognized also by President Ursula von der Leyen. And currently, 16 European countries are collaborating closely with China. We want to have a Danube corridor when we put in place an integrated strategy, and Romania understood that very well, because sometimes we need to choose between the Baltic Sea or the Black Sea, but these two seas are part of a more global map, and an EU with 27 member states today won't have the same face as EU in the future years, in the coming years. So in the future, we will have more coherence between EU member states, and 23 of the EU member states are also NATO member states. And in the future, Moldova and Georgia will be added to this big family. We cannot disconnect the Black Sea from Eurasia. And I think we need to reinvent ourselves and to reinvent the Eurasia logic, because the Russians are using this to their benefit. And that goes against our strategic and integration approach. But if we also have a Eurasia vision, we will be able to understand that certain countries and certain strategic regions and strategic connections with the Black Sea within G7 or G20, we will understand that these organizations will become more and more Western from a pertaining point of view, but they are also deploying a global diplomacy. A new security architecture was mentioned, and we should remember President Sarkozy's approach in 2009. Let's not think about from Lisbon to Vladivostok route anymore. When President Putin was received in Lisbon, we should now rethink this geography and think from Lisbon to Kharkov. This is a new era, and this new era is defined by the support we give to the defense of the region, and the law for military defense and military loans in order to obtain ammunition and convince France to grant 2% of the GDP for defense is just a series of lessons learned from the war in Ukraine. So somehow we need to take into account the fact that this war is an intense war, but it is also led through informational wars as well, not only through a kinetic war. These are the observations I wanted to mention, and I will stop here to allow Luca to take the floor. Thank you, Emmanuel. I could have listened to you much more. However, I believe that you are an actor of the new speech France is presenting, or a continuation of the new wave France is presenting. Your vision, on the other hand, is a panoramic view and an encyclopedic view. It is a view specific to France, but at the same time a very deep view. Now I want to invite Mr. Luca Niculescu, the State Secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to present his vision about the Black Sea and Danube.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, ambassadors of France and of Turkey, dear Emmanuel, let's go back a little bit. Within the Foreign Affairs Ministry, I'm currently dealing with another aspect, the Romanian's accession to the OECD. However, I've been Romania's ambassador to France between 2016 and 2022, so for 7 years. And I can confirm what Emmanuel has just said, that is, France's commitment within this region. We remember the Crimean War and what France did for Romania during the First World War. It is also true that this last couple of years we've felt a more involvement of France in the region, and we have to thank France for having sent armed forces in our region and for having taken over the command of the NATO battle group here in Romania. And now I'm speaking in my own name. This was not valid always. You mentioned the new speech, the new French approach. I met Bruno Terté, for example, when I've been in France, and they adopted this speech. They were aware that Eastern Europe was important and had to be important for France and for the Western countries. And I also speak about the southern and the northern parts of the flank, of the eastern flank. Others, unlike them, thought that the dangers came from the south rather. And I remember someone told me that Russia will never attack, via the Black Sea. And you've seen that the latter Russian attacks have happened through the south. What I would like to see is a long-term involvement of France in our region, because it is in our interests, in the allies' interests, the way that Russia is concentrating their forces in states such as Syria, starting from the Black Sea region, is worrisome. So it's good for everyone to closely follow Russia's actions. And I'm not only speaking about warfare. We should also pay close attention to economic warfare. France has land and air presence here, significant maritime presence in the Black Sea as well. We were glad to see in 2017 when France offered us this plaque with regard to the security stakes at the Black Sea. We had the visit of President Macron, and it was followed by foreign affairs ministers meetings and meetings at the level of the embassies. And this plaque reminds us of the permanent presence of France's military forces in this area. You've also said that President Macron supplemented the military presence on Romanian soil in order to support our intervention in light of the Ukrainian attack by the Russian forces. And this presence was built up step by step. My colleagues from the embassy in Paris also observed this ever-increasing dynamic of dialogue between France and Romania with regard to ensuring the peace and security in the Black Sea region. Thank you, Secretary, for your contribution to our panel. You've drawn a very brief but extremely useful conclusion in underlying the long-term relationships between France and Romania. Indeed, we've laid the basis of the mechanism along the years. And I think that you also are very familiar with the French-Romanian relations, just as well as me. Then allow me to make a personal remark. I would like to bring homage and to express my gratitude for having opened my mind and having given me new information with regard to the strategic commitment that France has in the region. I greatly appreciate your scientific and methodological breakdown of the topic. And now I give the floor to Mr. JALABERT, who is a non-resident associated expert with the New Strategy Center in France. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A session, of course, and the ambassador will also give us a viewpoint on the topic of this panel. Indeed, France and Romania have had a long-standing relationship, and we need to take stock of last actions in order to prepare for the future, especially when faced with such actions and as the Russian aggression in Ukraine. These dangers are visible on a day-to-day basis, so we are fully aware of the importance of cooperation. For us, the Black Sea is a strategic area, and basically all adjacent regions are strategic themselves in the current context. Russia has interests in this area, but Romania as well. Romania wants to not only consolidate their relationship with France, but it also wants to see beneficial aspects that go well beyond to this bilateral relationship. So these will have an impact way beyond this region. That's all from myself. Well, then I give the floor to the audience. Cher Gheorghe, thank you for having given me the right to reply. Our new General Director, Alice Ruffo, within the Ministry, within the Department for Energy of the Ministry of Defense has spoken to me, and I would also like to convey her opinion. But first of all, I'd like to thank the two Gheorghes for their intervention, and to the New Strategy Center. Your approach has been a foster place for collective thought and intervention, and we've seen how committed are our two countries in supporting Ukraine. The battle group is already present here, and well, they think about a new kind of manifestation of warfare in Europe. We should reflect at this aspect from two perspectives. We have put we have set up a brigade. Basically, the Romanian General Staff has to deal with hybrid threats to a new kind of warfare. We are aware that we are faced with new kinds of military challenges, and we should pay close attention to how well we prepare ourselves, how to better assume this deterrence posture. I'd like to thank Mr. Emmanuel DUPUY and to former Ambassador Mr. NICULESCU for their interventions. They have painted a picture of the French-Romanian vision on current aspects with regard to politics and strategy. You are right. We need to see how to better connect diplomacy and policy, how to better increase our capacity to act. At the French-Romanian Forum, we've invited representatives from all general staffs in order to discuss with their French counterparts. We have in Romania around 4,000 businesses, and they can contribute to improving the situation. So we shall see how to ramp up the intervention, French intervention in Romania. Since we have a good presence in the EU, and we are ready to consolidate our contribution to NATO, but now we need to think how to better explain all this to our citizens. In the French embassy in Romania, we are closely considering various actions in this sense. Last week, we visited the Cincu, we visited the Romanian military academies, where we talked about the presence of French soldiers on Romanian soil. We've had a whole year of intense interventions and actions together with partners from the Netherlands, from Belgium. We enter the second year of the war. Before the next summit, we need to reiterate our commitment for the Republic of Moldova within the network of French-Romanian relationships. Thank you, Ambassador, for your intervention. I will try to answer the two questions you've asked.
I don't believe we can give you detailed answers today, considering that we need a roadmap. We need to think about this national reaction and governmental reaction thoroughly. Therefore, we will only briefly touch upon this topic. So who wants to take the floor and give only the point of view? France has two strategies right now. One for the Black Sea, mentioned by the general direction for the strategy and international relations. And this is a strategic document. And then we have an Indo-Pacific strategy. France has created such a strategy. And last year, a confirmation from Mr. Joseph Borrell, the representative for Foreign Affairs of the EU, has been presented. We need France to give the tone of a EU strategy in this matter. For example, an Oriental partnership, because we have countries that have interests at the Black Sea. For example, Russia, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova. The Black Sea and Baltic Sea were considered until now external seas to Europe. But by next year, I think the Black Sea will be well structured, and NATO needs to rely on the riparian states. We rely on 6 out of 7 countries. I hope Georgia, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova will join NATO, just as Turkey did, and as Romania and Bulgaria did. So those countries need to become members, and also members of the EU. Maybe Azerbaijan, maybe Armenia will show their interest to access the EU. So this is why we need to draft a program for the Black Sea security. Now, going back to the ambassador's words, French-Romanian relationships were the introduction to the wider discussions arena. The close relationship with France, and considering that in 2009 a strategic policy was emphasized at EU level, Romania is now becoming a strategic partner, and just like France is for African countries. The first state France turned to was Romania. So the NATO intervention in the Black Sea region is more than welcome. I want to add my comments next. Thank you for your excellent intervention, dear Ambassador. This was a recipe for success, and we need to continue on this path. I appreciate your answers, but probably the real answer is in dialogue. We should discuss about the steps to make. France and Romania have similar positions towards what is happening at the Black Sea, because ministers of foreign affairs and all the authorities in the two countries have continued a permanent dialogue and share the same vision. France has always showed its interest to the relationship Romania has with the riparian countries. It is important to have mutual understanding of the matters and continue our efforts to enhance the defense capacities. The industries of the two countries are communicating and collaborating closely and have been doing that for a number of years. So there is dialogue, there is action. Actions are being taken, so we need a vision for the future. France has 423 billion euros, if I'm not wrong, substantial increase compared to the previous budget line. And Romania has allocated 2.5% of the GDP for its defense. So funds are being allocated for these joint efforts. So we only have 5 more minutes. I would like to speak in Turkish. Unfortunately, we don't have.
Has come to the fore quite strongly after, of course, the unjustified attack of Russia on Ukraine. All of us at NATO, we support the full integrity of territory of Ukraine and Turkey. Turkey has done so also in the attack to Crimea and since 2014. On a personal basis, we have a particular position vis-à-vis there. We have a line of communication, which is, I think, to the benefit of everyone. It also resulted in the grain deal. And on a daily basis, our diplomats, my minister, my president is engaged with all parties to extend the grain deal. And I think we were succeeding 2 days ago for another 60 days. So we will continue this line of communication with all parties without hindrance to our position that territorial integrity must be supported. On the discussions on Black Sea, of course, I think our country, Turkey, must be included in all of these discussions, no matter in which platform it is. Particularly in EU, there is a tendency to exclude our country from certain discussions based on political considerations. I think this is a mistake because my country is in the center of things, in the center of events. We have a very important role. Therefore, if EU is strategizing on how to determine a position on Black Sea, this would be unthinkable to not consult with Turkey. All of this discussion should go through that. And Three Seas decision, the Three Seas initiative, and also all of these, which include, has a dimension with Turkey, because we have more than 1,300 kilometers of coastline. And another point would be, there was a reference to the Montreux Convention. It is a convention that set up a system that enables some sort of military or stability in the maritime sea. So we don't see, yes, there is war, but conflicts have been avoided, at least on a constant basis, thanks to the Montreux Convention, and we will be implementing it to the letter. I think this is how we prevented the war to be really to be full-fledged in the Black Sea, despite, of course, lots of conflicts there, military conflicts after the attack of Russia. The Black Sea region is still relatively not a war zone area. And also there was a reference to the so-called Armenian genocide. Of course, our position is well known. Hundreds of thousands of Turks lost their lives during this conflict. We tend to call it the events of 1915. Thank you.
I have to look at the Watch Ambassador. Allow me, as a moderator, take upon me to give a reply as member of the Scientific Council of the New Strategy Center. First of all, as Romanians, we encourage as many strategies on the Black Sea as possible, starting with NATO. And we also encourage as many initiatives on a national basis from member states of both NATO and EU, because we believe it is in the strategic interest of both Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania to have as intense a focus on this strategic area as possible, and to what my colleague on the rostrum here was mentioning, Emmanuel DUPUY, from periphery to centrality. I think this is our strategic national interest as the three NATO riparian countries. This is the point I wanted to make from the Romanian perspective, but I am sure that all those here attending, NATO or EU members, will take on board your points. But I think I just wanted to tell you in which direction we are acting, including as a think tank. To conclude this extremely interesting panel, and regretfully too short as all the others, I just want to say something very personal. I had the privilege to say challenging privilege to participate in the NATO summit in 2008 in Bucharest. If you compare what was discussed, decided, and not decided then, and the way things go now, from the Madrid summit to the Vilnius summit, you can realize a revolutionary period has been, traveled on. We are on a long journey, and the strategic openings are really indeed staggering. And we have to face, and I think this panel, this event here, the forum, gives us the opportunity to see where we are going in this the history in the making. So I will conclude here. I want to thank the participants. Pardon, I have to finish. Thank you. So, je lève la séance. Je vous remercie à tous.
I would like to thank you all.